God's Word Express.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling a really profound and I think often misunderstood topic, the mechanics of curses and blessings. We're going to try and move past the mystery and treat these spiritual concepts as, well, something much more concrete like a legal framework.
That's absolutely right. I mean, our sources, particularly the biblical texts that lay out these principles, they really demand that we abandon the idea of some kind of spiritual gray area.
Okay.
The analogy they give us is, it's powerful. There's just no middle ground. You are either standing at the base of Mount Ebal, which represents the curse,
Right.
or you're at Mount Gerizim, which is the blessing. And even if you're only experiencing a tiny bit of one, the whole direction of your life is pulling you toward one of those mountains.
And what's crucial here, what I found so interesting, is that neither state curse or blessing is passive. It takes effort, it takes action to get up Mount Gerizim and receive that blessing.
Precisely. You don't just trip and fall into complete blessing. And, that really brings us to our mission for today.
Yeah.
For anyone listening who's dealing with these persistent negative patterns, whether they're inherited or, self-inflicted, we need a clear path to resolution.
A how-to.
Exactly. We're going to treat the curse as a legal case that has been opened against you, and we'll outline the steps you need to take to settle that case, to get the full freedom package.
Okay, let's unpack this legal framework then, because this is where the material gets really, really interesting. The source's main finding is that every curse, and actually every blessing too, contains 4 main components.
Yes.
If you can identify these 4 parts, you've basically got the blueprint for the whole legal proceeding.
Yep. Think of it like identifying the plaintiff, the crime, the penalty, and the defendant in a court case.
Oh, okay.
These 4 elements, they just consistently appear in every single scriptural decree of a curse or a blessing.
So let's detail them out. What's the first one?
First, you have the cursor, or the plaintiff. This is the authority who actually issues the curse. So in the big framework in Deuteronomy, the cursor is God himself. But in other events, like, say, the judgment on Jericho, the authority figure was Joshua. He was the one who issued it.
Okay, so you have the plaintiff. What's next?
Second, we have the condition, which is basically the crime. Why is this curse being imposed? And the primary condition is a failure to diligently obey God's voice and commandments.
Okay.
And the New Testament kind of refines this in Galatians 3.0. It says, if you rely on the law for your righteousness, on your own performance, and you fail in just one tiny part, you fall under the curse.
Wow.
Because your attempt at merit, it was incomplete. That failure is the crime.
So the condition is never arbitrary. It's always linked back to a choice or some kind of violation.
Absolutely. Then third is the scope. You could call it the penalty.
The penalty.
This defines how far the impact goes. And it's usually not just the person. In Deuteronomy 28, the curse hits everything. The city, the field, the basket, the kneading trough. I mean, it's total.
Comprehensive destruction.
It is. And then finally, fourth, you have the recipient, the defendant.
Who gets the curse?
Who gets the curse? The person, their possessions, and sometimes even their descendants.
That structural analysis is so helpful. It lets you analyze any pattern you see. So let's use the most famous example, Adam's curse in Genesis. How does that break down?
Okay, good one. So, the cursor is clear. God. The condition, the crime, was Adam listening to his wife and eating from the tree, basically prioritizing human counsel over the divine word.
Right.
And our source material points out this fascinating rabbinic saying that's related. Mere talk brings poverty.
Mere talk brings poverty.
The moment Adam listened to mere talk, he essentially opened the door to spiritual and literal poverty.
I like that framing. Listening to human wisdom instead of divine instruction is the root cause.
Yes. And then the scope of the curse was remarkable. It wasn't Adam's body. It was the ground itself that was cursed.
So his whole livelihood.
His entire field of labor, yeah. It resulted in painful work and, thorns and thistles. And the recipient was Adam, his descendants, everything tied to his domain. The 4 components just define the whole case perfectly.
So now we have to flip the coin. If curses require a crime, then blessings must require some sort of cause, some kind of merit.
That is the key takeaway. You don't just passively get honor from the divine.
Right.
The Hebrew word for blessing, barak, is extremely instructive here. It means someone who kneels down in this posture of humility and respect, to grant honor or a gift to someone else.
But you don't give honor lightly.
You don't. To be granted that kneeling attention, the recipient has to have done something worthy. There has to be a legitimate reason for the blesser to grant that gift.
So it's like, if I'm a good kid, but I never help around the house, my parents might love me, but they won't feel compelled to kneel down and give me the car keys. I haven't done the worthy work.
That's a perfect analogy. Look at Deuteronomy 28. It doesn't say, if you exist, blessings will come. No, it says, if you diligently obey God's voice, the blessings will actively overtake you.
The condition is explicit.
So explicit. Diligent belief that leads to diligent obedience.
This is so beautifully illustrated in that story of Isaac and Esau. I always just thought Isaac was old and, confused. But you're saying he needed Esau to manufacture a reason for the blessing.
He did. Isaac was old, he was blind, but he wasn't forgetful. He knew Esau's track record.
Right, with the foreign women.
Exactly. Esau had married foreign women, which caused huge grief to his parents. His prior bad behavior gave no inherent reason for a blessing to land on him. So Isaac needed Esau to create some merit. Go hunting, prepare a meal.
You needed him to actively participate.
Yes, to earn the moment before the blessing could be legitimately given.
It's almost like Isaac was waiting for a legal loophole or some moment of grace that Esau's effort would trigger.
Exactly. And look at the heartbreaking results when merit is just totally denied. In Genesis 49, Jacob is about to bless his sons, but his assessments are they're brutal and they're honest.
Yeah.
Reuben, the firstborn, is explicitly denied the peak blessing because he was unstable as water for what he did in his father's bed.
Right. And Simeon and Levi, too.
Simeon and Levi, yeah, they had their inheritance reduced and scattered because of their uncontrolled, vengeful violence. Blessings are just inherently tied to active, conscious, good conduct.
And this commitment, it extends beyond just morality, right? It's into active service partnership.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the New Testament. The Philippian church supporting Paul, he called them partners in grace because they were active. Financial giving, time, ministry service. If you are just passively waiting for good things, but not offering a worthy environment, not serving, not committed, you're blocking the flow of that barak.
Okay, so that sets the stage perfectly for the big question. How do we settle the case? We know the problem structure. Now we need the solution for breaking the curse.
And the solution has two parts. There's the automatic payment that covers the past, and then there's the active repayment that's required to close the file on the present.
Okay, let's start with part one.
Part one is using the paid debt.
Mhm.
Galatians 3:1-14 is our cornerstone. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. His sacrifice is enough. It's sufficient to cancel every past, inherited, or general curse.
The price has been paid. The debt is settled. That sounds like total freedom, but you said accessing this isn't automatic. This is where I think most people get stuck.
They do, because they believe freedom should be passive. But freedom requires a declaration. We use the analogy of canceling a bad SMS subscription.
Top.
The provider is ready to cancel your debt, but you still have to take the action. You have to type cancel and hit send.
So you have to claim it.
You have to claim it. Accessing Christ's redemption requires a specific verbal declaration claiming that right and privilege in Jesus' name.
So if someone sees a pattern, say a generational curse of poverty or early death in their family, they have to verbally intervene, even though Christ already died.
Precisely. You have to use your spiritual authority to cancel that legal claim, and you do it based on Christ's completed work. If you don't use the rights you were granted, the curse just keeps operating because no active counterclaim has been filed against it.
Okay, that's huge. That brings us to part two then. Repayment and restitution. This is the active role.
This is the active role of the defendant, yes. Even though Christ paid the ultimate penalty for sin in general, some specific debts require active human repayment as directed by God, the judge, to fully close the legal file.
And this is where we move from theory into actual obedience.
Exactly. Look at Zacchaeus in Luke 19. When he met Jesus, he immediately committed to restitution, giving half his stuff to the poor, repaying anyone he defrauded fourfold.
And Jesus' response is key.
It's everything. Jesus says, "Today, salvation, soteria, has come to this house."
And that word soteria, it's important. The source says it's more than just getting into heaven.
Oh, much more. Soteria is the package tour of complete blessing. It's physical, financial, spiritual well-being. But that full package only arrived at Zacchaeus' house after he committed to active restitution.
So the judge required that specific repayment to fully settle the case and release the blessing.
That's right.
So true freedom means actually correcting the visible wrong not just asking for forgiveness. This can mean apologizing
Prayer.
or paying back that small amount of money I stole from a friend 20 years ago, like in that example from the source.
Absolutely. If God prompts you, and this is key, it's the judge's specific instruction, to apologize, to repay money, even decades later, that obedience is necessary to close the case. Ignoring it leaves the file open.
I have to ask about the most difficult example in the material, the case with David, Saul, and the Gibeonites. The land suffered a 3-year famine, a curse, because Saul had violated a covenant years before.
Yes.
And David asks what restitution they require, and they demand the execution of 7 of Saul's descendants.
It is a harsh story. It's confronting, but it illustrates the severe nature of a legal requirement when a sacred covenant is broken. The curse was only lifted when David allowed that to happen.
But wait, that sounds incredibly harsh, almost unfair from our modern perspective. How can an innocent descendant be required to pay for what an ancestor did?
The source explains this by emphasizing the legal nature of it, not the emotional one. The debt was tied to Saul's household, which was like the corporate entity under the covenant.
Not just Saul, the individual.
Not just Saul. The curse was on the land, a physical consequence, and the Gibeonites, as the offended party, were granted the right to demand physical restitution to close that violation. It shows that some generational curses require real, tangible repayment to settle the legal mandate.
That puts immense pressure on the current generation to stop the cycle and pay whatever is outstanding.
It does. But here's the good news. This is what balances the severity. Curses are not eternal.
Okay.
They are legal punishments with defined limits. They all have an expiration date.
That is the hope we promised. Tell us about those limits.
Well, we find it clearly in Exodus 20.5. Punishment for those who hate God extends only to the 3rd or 4th generation.
Right.
And our source clarifies this doesn't mean infinite suffering. It means the curse can only reach back a maximum of about 30 ancestors. If the current generation recognizes the pattern, say idolatry, and stops it, the curse stops with them.
So even if the case was opened by my great-great-grandfather, I have the power to close it today.
Exactly, by changing your conduct and claiming Christ's payment. And the parable of the unforgiving servant in Matthew 18 also implies a limit. The servant was punished, but only until he should pay all that was due.
It ends.
It ends. But we do have to remember that the severity of the sin matters. It impacts the duration, the intensity of the curse. Jesus warned that some cities would face a heavier penalty than others.
So heavier sins lead to longer, more difficult periods of affliction.
They can, yes. If the cause is great, the punishment is heavy.
But the core principle here, it remains the same, doesn't it? If you get rid of the cause, the curse loses all its power.
That is the final word. Proverbs 26.2 assures us that a curse without a cause will not land. It won't settle. If you eliminate the foundational condition, the legal case collapses. It becomes null and void.
This has been an incredibly practical deep dive. The key takeaway for you, the listener, seems to be that breaking a curse means settling a legal case in 2 parts. First, use Christ's payment, verbally claim that redemption, and second, crucially, follow the specific commands for restitution, the judge's orders, to eliminate the cause and fully close the case.
And that raises a challenging but really important question for everyone to think about. Given that both blessings and curses require effort and stem from specific actions, what specific active step of restitution or obedience might you be avoiding right now? What is the judge telling you to do that is delaying the arrival of that package tour of complete blessing, that soteria, in your life?
We'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.
God bless you.